Hi, everyone. It's first time doing an AMA on Discord stages. Definitely let me know if there's a problem, but hopefully it should work pretty well. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Ben Schmidt, the Chief Security Officer and a co-founder here at PolySwarm. Here today to talk about Mainnet and that we're now at 100%. So first off, what does Mainnet 100% mean? Well, Mainnet is us transitioning to using real Nectar. And we are now in our own platform completing 100% of the transactions on our mainnet rather than our testnet. So if you've been following us for a while, we've spent the last couple of years really in a testnet mode where we've been trying things out, iterating on our design and trying to get our transactions per second to get higher. We've been pretty successful with that, but it did require a lot of work and a lot of iterations on that. But after all of that work, we're finally at a point where we can handle all our load, and it's all using real Nectar. So this was a huge undertaking that we're very proud of, and I'd really like to congratulate the dev team and all the people who worked together to help make this happen. So to get to Mainnet, we had to do a lot of work, obviously, specifically with scaling things. So we wanted to be able to handle our entire load without having to constantly fork off onto different side chains or delay tasks, et cetera, et cetera. And that was very difficult to do on the main chain. So we created this side chain so that we have much more control over the transactions being executed and how quickly we could actually scale the transactions. So we're constantly looking at technologies that might allow us to do this better, but doing it in-house was our best option starting off. So some people have asked if getting to 100% is going to cause any immediate changes for clients or engines. For our clients, it's been pretty transparent. We've transitioned over, and really all they're enjoying is smoother results with our new architecture. Scans complete more regularly, and they usually have more results. It also gives us a lot more ability to handle increased loads. So when we have spikes, customers need to handle a lot of files quickly. We could scale much more easily to deal with that now. So for our clients, they didn't really have to change anything, and they just get to enjoy the new benefits. For our engines, there have been some changes, and we're going to continue working with the engines as we do more testing on Mainnet and adjust some things. So there have been some changes to the bidding amounts to try and create a more stable ecosystem so that engines aren't running out of money and things like that. And we've been adjusting that as we watch stuff. So this was also the reason that we took such a measured approach and sort of a longer approach to scaling, and so that we could observe what was happening in the marketplace and sort of adjust various variables such that the marketplace functions in the healthy way that we want. So I think I already went over a refresher on the purpose of the sidechain, but just to reiterate, our sidechain exists so that we can do more transactions than what the Ethereum mainnet supports right now, will probably ever support. We've explored some other layer 2 options, but they weren't quite mature enough for what we wanted to do. So our first iteration has been something that we developed in-house. We'll see how that goes. And like I said, we're evaluating others pretty constantly. But right now, we're pretty happy with the performance we've gotten. So right now, our current sidechain, the caps on transactions of artifacts, well, we've tested up to about 40 to 50 artifacts per second. However, this isn't exactly the cap. We handle that fine. I believe we can scale significantly higher, but we haven't stressed it to that level. Over the last day or so, we were processing somewhere in the realm of 300 to 400 transactions per second. We're hopeful that it can go, 2 to 3 times that. But we're going to have to see as things scale up. What happens in the future if the platform surpasses this cap? What safeguards are in place to avoid submission errors and downtime? I think this question is sort of talking a little bit about Solana, how it's had some downtime due to system overloads, and how we try and prevent that. Right now, most of the artifacts coming in are not time critical, so we can actually average a lot of our load over the network so that things don't get overwhelmed. That's our first line of defense, but we also have a number of processing queues that will also buffer some of the incoming requests before they actually get committed down and processed. So there can be slight delays sometimes, but in general, we think we've created a pretty robust system that should stay up in most circumstances. That's more or less coverage of what's been going on with Mainnet. We're very proud of how far we've gotten. We're still looking at improving some of the performance on Mainnet, and I'm looking forward to talking to that a little bit later in this AMA. So the next question is, what usually sets the market price for insertions? Is this a free market system that engines bid and adjust in machine speed? Or is it an agreed upon price in USD converted to NCT that all participants agree? It is a free market, so there's a couple different portions of nectar that are supplied every time you create a bounty. So the first thing you're doing whenever you place the bounty is you attach a small amount of nectar to it so that people will take a look at it, the bounty fee. In addition to that, all the engines are also betting on what's going on the network. They also supply a little bit of nectar in their assertions. Both of these things are adjustable. For our bounties, the vast majority of our bulk that are coming from our partners that supply us samples, we pay a flat fee that's somewhere in the range of 0.5 cent per bounty. Each of the engines, however, are allowed to bet up to a maximum amount of nectar if they so choose, anytime that they're voting on a given bounty. We've had to adjust that maximum from time to time to try and make sure that the market functions smoothly. But in general, the engines are allowed to determine, based on their confidence, what they're going to vote on. Now, some of this isn't perfect yet. So our internal engines generally also bid in a very fixed strategy. One of the efforts we're going to make over the next 6 months is actually changing some of these engines so that they have more dynamic pricing, and that'll hopefully allow them to perform better in the marketplace, which is the overall goal of what we're trying to achieve. So in general, yes, it's a free market, but there are limits on what you can put on given bounties to try and keep the market orderly. So the next question I've got is, what comes next for the marketplace now that Mainnet is 100%? Well, even though we've gotten to 100%, there's still tons to do. So obviously, we're going to continue our efforts on scaling. Like I said, there's adjustments that we still need to make for a number of the engines so that they perform better on Mainnet. In general, we've actually seen pretty markedly improved performance for engine responses, but we're still hopefully going to expand that. I should note here that one thing that some people have mentioned is not seeing quite as many of the engines responding to stuff, and this is actually a good thing rather than a bad thing. So we've made it easier for engines to only respond to file types that they're actually able to analyze. So the engines will actually filter out better now than they used to incoming bounties that they do support or they don't support. When you just scan random file types, oftentimes you'll not see quite as many engines responding, but this is actually because a number of engines that shouldn't have been responding in the first place are now not. But what this means is, for the end user, you have to filter through less noise. You're actually seeing people vote that have some level of confidence in what they're saying. So you don't have to try and guess at, whether or not people support different file types or whether or not they're good at analyzing things. We're using PolySwarm, that's handled for you. So it makes things a lot easier for using the platform. However, it can look a little weird at times, and we're interested moving forward how to display that a little better. In addition to improving and adding more engines, we're also going to be starting work on private communities. So creating the ability for large companies, to contract with a subset of our engine developers, paid in nectar in private communities where they can transact without samples necessarily becoming public. This is something that a lot of our customers are concerned about. They can't always submit things into public communities such that people can analyze them. So we're going to be working on creating private versions of these that engine developers can join and earn more money in. We'll be sort of brokering and all of those things as an ambassador. What we're hoping to achieve is sort of creating more and more niche, direct relationships between companies and these small developers that we've been hoping to encourage. Beyond that, we also have a lot of Nectar network that I'm sure you guys are interested in, which I'll talk about a little bit later. But the NectarNet stuff is obviously a big priority for us over the next 6 months to a year. Scaling that, improving the rewards algorithm so that we tie it better to the value of what people are providing. And we're hoping to provide more details on that coming up soon. And I'll talk a little bit later. There's some further questions on it later in the AMA. So that's more or less the high level things that we're going to be working on moving forward. But there's a lot going on, so I'm sure there's certain things that will come out that I haven't mentioned. The next question: will the bear market affect user experience or the flow of nectar through the marketplace? As far as we're concerned, we think we're pretty well positioned to going into the bear market, where it won't affect the flow of nectar through the marketplace. If it affects anything, it's going to mean that more nectar is flowing as the exchange rate has dropped fairly significantly. The user experience shouldn't be affected, though, as long as things continue functioning normally and we keep making the progress we're doing. I'm feeling very, very comfortable with how we're positioned going into it. So hopefully things are looking good in the next year or so. We're going to have a bunch more features that we're releasing. Should be pretty exciting. The next question: will there be any stats or data presented in the marketplace stats for NectarNet? This is something we've had a few questions on, and we're definitely looking forward to publishing more statistics on NectarNet. They actually have a separate page for that, but we're still in the early design phases of figuring out how we want to represent that. But even before, we have an actual page up. We'll be sure to share some more information to the community about how many people are using it daily and the kind of threats we're finding too, hopefully. Look forward to that in the near future. So now that Mainnet is out of the way, how much of your efforts will be focused on NectarNet, and does this speed up the timeline to staking? So now that we've gotten Mainnet out of the way, which has been a big blocker for a long time, it definitely opens up more dev resources to hit various things. Like I said, we're also working on a couple other things at the same time, like private communities. So the entire dev team is going to be focused on NectarNet, but we're certainly going to be making more progress towards it. The timeline to staking hasn't really been accelerated by this necessarily. Things are kind of moving within our time frame. Mainnet was delayed a little bit, so things are pushed back a little, but we're hiring a couple more dev guys, and I'm hopeful that we're going to keep staking on the same timeline. So that's not looking too bad, but we'll be sure to keep you guys updated as we move closer to staking. Are there any new features coming up for Mainnet? I already sort of touched on this, but the biggest one coming out is going to be the addition of private communities. We've got a couple smaller things coming, but that's the largest one. Will there be a way to track engine performance? So this is fairly important to us. We want to encourage people on the marketplace to perform well. However, some engines don't necessarily like reporting their engine performance often. So we've been working with the community to come up with ways that we can represent this without necessarily making any individual engine upset. We are planning on adding awards and publicly recognizing various engines for contributions. I think Blake can fill you in on that stuff a little bit later, but what we're trying to do is encourage people to do unique things and provide unique services on the platform. So we're going to try and highlight good performance that is happening on our network and people who are actually really killing it. So we're going to be working on highlighting some of those guys in the near future. So keep an eye out for that. The next question: are we outperforming Virus Total at this point? Well, I really respect what the Virus Total guys have done, to be clear. But I do feel like in a number of ways we are outperforming Virus Total already. We handle a large volume of samples, at least publicly. It looks like we handle more in daily volume often than Virus Total does. But also, and often more importantly, our samples are fresher than Virus Totals. We submit them. We get things before them. We make them available before them, so our customers can get the information they need sooner. This has been our focus for a long time. We're constantly adding new features too that we think are unique and add value to the platform. So our hunting features are very effective. Our price point's pretty good. So I'd argue in most of the respects that matter, yeah, we are. For the next question: what type of malware artifacts are we receiving the most of, and what percentage are being flagged as malicious? Higher PolyScore. I don't have the exact statistics on me. I'd have to go get them. But as far as malware artifacts we receive, the largest portion of them are PE files generally. Those make up a good 50 or 60% of the sample feed. As far as what percentage are being flagged malicious, I honestly don't know that offhand, but I would suspect it's somewhere in the realm of 50 to 60% as well. But I'd have to check on that. A large number of the samples that come into our platform are obviously already suspect. So the percentage of malicious files to benign files is somewhat higher than what you would get if you just scanned, random files. So the next question, looking back, what were the 3 main technical challenges in building, scaling Mainnet that the development team had to overcome? We've certainly done a ton of work on this, so it's hard to just pick 3. The first was just being able to get a platform in which we could commit things fast enough to keep up with our load. And I think after a large amount of design and discussion, we were able to achieve that. The next biggest technical challenge, I think, was porting all of the engines over. So packaging all of these engines, at least the ones that we host ourselves, is not exactly a straightforward task. So a lot of effort was actually expended in bringing and porting some of these over to our newer framework where we can get better performance and we have better observability into the ones that we host. And it allows them to scale more easily in our infrastructure. So scaling those engines, we've spent a lot of time thinking about. And the third main technical challenge was just handling the sidechain stuff. So the actual financial transfers to and from the sidechain. So getting that into a working state was a little bit of a challenge for us. Obviously, we took our time. We wanted to be careful because it's going to be handling pretty significant amounts of money. We're pretty happy with how that turned out. We still have some work to do on that front and enabling, automatic withdrawals from the sidechain, but we're working towards being able to do that. So the next question, given 19 of 29 engines do not participate on Mainnet, will they also disappear from the engines list? And is there any excitement among the new engines you are talking with or trying to onboard? So first off, the 19 out of 29 engines, I'm not certain is correct. At least from our own internal statistics, each bounty has an average of about 14 to 15 assertions per bounty. But again, like I said earlier, because we've made some changes and the engines are now properly filtering samples that they support, we have a somewhat lower average response rate. So that might be something in here. Right now, engines, even if they're not participating, are still shown by default in our UI. One, we already have a ticket open to sort of gauge activity and hide engines that haven't been responding for a few days. Like I said, as far as I know, we have at least 20 plus engines that have responded in the last week on our platform. And we have at least 3 or 4 that are still experiencing some difficulties on the new side that we're working on fixing today, actually. And I completely forgot to answer the excitement question. We've actually, things on the engine side have been looking really good. People have been actively reaching out to us and asking to join. There's a lot of interest now that, there's actual real money going through. So we're pretty excited. We're trying to get these people added on as quickly as possible. But yeah, there's certainly some new interesting engines coming on. I think one specifically focused on PE files that I'm looking forward to seeing in our platform. Do you have any new exciting partners you are or will be willing to work with? I'm not sure, actually, if I can mention any, but we definitely have at least 4 or 5 new customers that we're talking with right now and actively onboarding. Hopefully we can release details on that as that's going on. Our partnerships with our existing partnerships with companies like Anomaly certainly still helping us. We're looking to expand some of those too and add new features into the feeds we're providing. So overall, things are looking really good with the PolySwarm ecosystem on that front. A lot of people are pretty excited about what we're doing. They think it's a good thing, and they're looking to help out with it, which is the most important. So at the end of the day, what we're doing is building a community, and it's critical to us to have the support of partners. And so far, very much, we've gotten a great response from the community. I guess I've run through my list of questions pretty quickly. I'd just like to say a little bit. I've been very, very proud of how the team has done, how we've executed on the project. we're getting to 100% mainnet. Certainly took a long time, and we really appreciate the continued patience and support of the community. It meant a lot to us to finally be able to get to this point, and we're really excited to be able to expand what we've done and bring it to the security community at large now. The next year is going to be really exciting. A lot of growth, a lot of new customers, a lot of new features. So now that we have the base system in place, we can start building very cool things. I think that's pretty much all I had. I appreciate you guys taking the time to come out. I am going to go back to the team and share your good words with them. But we're going to keep working, and we really appreciate your support once again. So thanks a lot, guys. I'll catch you later.